Fellow Oraxians, hello. Commander Cyrious here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about the infill. The first iteration of the changes has hit the test server, and there is much consternation in the community about what they will land on as the final Infiltrator rework patch. Let's dive into all of it. I'll see you at Planetside, soldiers.
Triple homicide.
Okay, I want to start with giving you a complete rundown on the proposed changes so far, and then we'll dive into community reaction and my thoughts and opinions. First of all, the cloaking adjustments. Increased delay between decloaking and firing, so when an infill pops out of cloak, he can't shoot at you right away. Cloaked players are now more visible and audible at close range. I never realized that cloaked infiltrators made a sound, and maybe they didn't. But now they have added an electronic hum to cloaked infiltrators that you can hear out to about 25 meters, and it grows stronger and stronger as you get closer. This, in my opinion, is one of the most meaningful adjustments. And yes, Stalker cloaks do have this, at least on the test server in its current form. So if you walk into a room with a Stalker cloak, you can hunt it down just by sound, no dark light needed. So that is going to be a loadout killing change if that moves forward. Stalker Cloak no longer allows infinite stealth while moving. Every Planetside 2 veteran player shouts back, "It never did!" I think it's an issue where they just didn't explain their intended changes correctly. Maybe it will only recharge while you're not cloaked now. As in, it won't discharge while you're not moving, but you'll actually have to decloak to recharge. I don't know, I'm speculating because what they said makes no sense. It's the way it is now. The Wraith Cloak flash changes, this is the little quad bike, increased the delay between decloaking and firing, and reduced the effectiveness at close ranges. Okay, it's something. The only thing anyone really wanted to see is you can't put weapons on a bike that also has cloak. So either have a cloak or have a weapons loadout. I don't know, 99% of the offensive flashes I see have a cloak. So if you go as far as taking weapons away from a cloak flash, you're almost relegating it to uselessness, other than cheap transport. But I don't know. I'm pretty flexible on what they do with that one. And now the big addition to the class is the recon drone. That is what you see me flying here. It takes up the tool slot for an infiltrator. You can use standard Q spot while you're using it. You can drop EMP grenades from it, and if you equip the grenade bandolier, you can drop 4 EMP grenades from it. I'm not sure if that's a feature or just something they haven't worked on yet. Your infiltrator just stands wherever they were when they deployed it while you're using it. 650 health with 0 resistance to small arms fire, so like most sniper rifles will take it down. And it does have battery and range, but it seems like it's pretty decent as long as you've upgraded it. There's a certification line that increases its range, increases how long the spots last, and some offensive upgrades. For the time being, it's in the ability slot, but you don't then go equip that ability, like as in replace a cloak. So it's all very placeholder-ish right now in the test server, and I don't quite understand what the final result is meant to be. And since you deploy the drone and immediately hop into the drone, you can't cloak while you're using the drone. So no fears. The infiltrator can't just sit in Stalker Cloak and do this. And then finally, they are adding in a new implant, the Observer implant. This allows engineer Spitfire turrets to see cloaked infiltrators and fire at them. So just increasing the tools to counter infiltrators. My assumption is using avoidance, which stops Spitfires from firing at you at all, would counter that implant. There was a lot of crashing on the test server, and I had an issue with the recording format I was using. So a lot of footage was no good, and then I had to constantly be logging in. So anyways, I apologize there's not more footage. I'm going to wait till they finish it a little more and bring you a more complete version now that I have the recording stuff dialed in, and hopefully they've dialed in all the crashing. Okay, let's talk about my reaction and community reaction. They put out a survey with the playtest server update announcement. One of the questions was, would you like the cloak mechanics removed completely from the game? And that was the hottest topic on the subreddit for the past month. So it seems like people are pretty excited that they might actually consider doing that. There were a significant amount of responses of people that thought full on removing it would go too far. It is a class-defining ability. So it seems like the majority consensus is people want significant changes, but not on board for complete elimination. And what a lot of people are leaning into is this idea that using Cloak on Infiltrator requires you to carry a handheld device. So it would be much like using the underwater propulsion device. When you want a cloak, you would have to de-equip your weapons and equip some sort of handheld device. There's like a million little handheld device assets that they've made for like the missions and stuff. Excuse me, the campaigns. So they could just grab one of those and say, yeah, this was the cloaking device all along. So you'd have to switch to that and activate it. And then when you wanted to shoot, you would have to switch back to your weapon. And the way you would make it so you can't just pop out a cloak is you would increase the time to switch away from that device. This would also give nice visual feedback to the player, because right now you still decloak the same as you always did, but then there's this weird hang, and you're not quite sure why you're not firing. It doesn't feel very comfortable. This idea to make the Infiltrator use the tool would solve that problem by giving an animation, and then the player has feedback like, oh, I can't shoot yet because I haven't fully equipped my weapon again. So that's definitely been the strongest community voice and thread on this topic for a very long time. And the devs are really at least showing with all the surveys and the requests for feedback that they're really trying to do what the players want, but not including that feature in the first playtest version makes me feel like there are technical limitations to them actually doing that. Because I don't know how else you missed it. It's been suggested so many times in this whole how do you fix the Infiltrator discussion, and it seems widely accepted. I'm seeing a lot of concerns from the community that it's not really dealing with the bolt-action sniper rifles. And I think the devs feel, well, wait, that's why we added the firing delay. That affects SMGs, pistols, bolt-actions, all of it. And it will definitely handicap the bolt-action game. Not saying you couldn't play it, but right now you can be super aggressive standing out in the open, uncloak for a second, fire, and then get out of there. This would absolutely change the cadence of how you play as a bolter. But I think for most of the community, not enough. There's a lot of people that just generally don't like the one-hit kill mechanics, whether it's a pump shotgun or someone with a bolt popping out. Snipers at long range, they're annoying, but, you know, there's less headshots there. They might clip you with a body shot. So I think people just accept that snipers on hills in the distance is a part of an FPS. But snipers in your face, one-shotting you, that people get pretty frustrated with. And so it feels like consensus so far is just a delay is not enough. Onto the recon drone. It is cool, but it is very gimmicky to me. I like the idea that as the platoon leader, you could fly up and have a big view of the battlefield. Report intel on where people are coming, direct your squads on where you want them in the base. Do you need a recon drone to do that? No, not at all. You could do that with recon darts and a map. And you can still be helping your team kill stuff. So there's going to be people yelling that you are being ineffective and inefficient sitting in your recon drone. Yeah, who cares? Let people play how they want. So from that end, it's a cool little feature. And I think they're trying to roll that out to soften the blow of when they take a lot of things away from the Infiltrator. But I think for most people, sitting up in the drone is going to be a disappointment as compared to actually like really participating in the fights. So I just don't think it's going to get a massive amount of use. Unless there are severe nerfs to recon darts and motion spotters that we just haven't seen yet. So far, nerfs to those have not been suggested. So my thoughts on it all. I totally get the frustration of Infiltrator. For new players and for veteran players alike. I play a lot of Infiltrator because it's great when you're on like one-man missions. And it has so much utility. But I'm definitely not a person that's like, it's the end of the game if you nerf them. And I absolutely would not quit over it or anything like that. I would probably just adjust my info playtime down and do a little bit more medic. I do think people are pretty significantly blowing out of proportion the effects these changes will have on the game, both in a positive and or negative direction. There's always new players checking out a game. That's been the state throughout the entire history of Planetside 2. New players come, it's free, easy to get into, and they don't stick around to figure it out. For some of them, it is a Stalker Cloak or a CQC Bolter that makes them rage quit. For some of them, it is rocket pods or whatever sort of anti-infantry cheese on vehicles you can think of. And for yet others, it is the sweaty heavy that makes them quit. When anyone tries to boil it down to one thing in the game, that is what's making the newbies not stay. They're just wrong. It is a wider mix of things. And while it will stop a few new players from leaving the game because they won't rage quit after an infill gets them, it also will kill the playstyle of a lot of long-term Planetside 2 players. And you would expect to see them logging in a lot less. And you got to think about, in terms of the longevity of the game and the liveliness of the game, losing someone that puts 30 hours into Planetside 2 a week will be felt in a much stronger way than losing 20 newbies that only played for 30 minutes and are never playing again. So, still, move forward, do what's best for the game, and to me what's best for the game is trying to make it appeal to the majority. And it feels like on this one, community consensus is reduce the kit of the Infiltrator. And for that reason, I am on board with the changes, even though I don't really like them, because it will eliminate some of the fun I have in Planetside 2. But the beauty of Planetside 2 is I have a blast on Engineer. I have a blast on Medic. I'm sick and tired of Heavy Assault, so no, but... And Sundays have ruined the vehicle game, so they're rapidly taking things away from me. But no, seriously, there are other fun things to do if the Infiltrator class is kind of turned into something else that's not as fun. The Observer implant, I like that. I do think the Avoidance implant needs to remain, so Infiltrators have a way to counter Observer and still be unseen. But turning Spitfires into mobile sentries really adds some usefulness to them, makes the Engineer more powerful, and I like giving the Engineer a bump in the infantry gameplay. And yes, it does create a situation where people have a big grind, you know. Avoidance is a 45,000 ISO implant, or luck of the draw, so people are going to complain, you know, it's pay to win, because if you pay up for it, you get it. I feel like at this point, I mean, they need ways to monetize it, and people have plenty of time to play and grind ISO to get those implants. The Cloaked Flash, I don't know why, it doesn't bother me that much. I don't really play it. I kind of like jousting with guys rolling around on flashes. I could see increasing the timer between cloaks up from 5 seconds to maybe 10 seconds. I can kind of see, okay, you get one approach shot, but then you got to figure out how to escape. You can't just cloak back up in 5 seconds. You've got to actually drive on out of there. That would make it a lot more impactful to me. I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent to that change because I don't mind playing against them and I don't really play it myself. Again, the Recon Drone, I think it'll be fun for some people. I just don't think it's going to be a huge game changer. Yes, you would be able to drop an EMP grenade 160 meters away from you. But like then, if you need to get up and help your team, you have to run 160 meters to catch up. It is not so seriously an improvement over just throwing an EMP grenade that I see a problem. SMGs and battle rifles, I see taking the hardest hit from that delay, and it will be an uncomfortable hit just because it's going to be like a frustrating, okay, when can I fire? Right now you have a very kind of clear cadence of when the cloak's down and when you can start firing. It will start feeling uncomfortably long with these changes. But if it's necessary to bring the class more in line with the other classes and make it more fun to have the Infiltrator participate in battles, then so be it. People will adjust to the new normal. I do completely agree, though, that there needs to be a better way for people to understand that delay. Even if it's as simple as like a circle with a line through a bullet, like no firing, that icon pops up until you're free to fire, or slow down the animation, that is the leaving cloak animation. It would probably look a little bit ugly to do it that way, but I think it would be better to show people that effect. My most used by far is absolutely the SMG Infiltrator, so the cloak delay will be just a massive kick in the teeth to that playstyle. So that will be a bummer, but again, I get it. If Infiltrators popping out is just turning too many people off, they're just not having fun with it there, nuke it, take it away. There are plenty of other playstyles in Planetside 2 that people can drift to. But one thing that the Infiltrator really brings that no other class can, and there was a post on the subreddit as if this was a bad thing. This was the footage where they were completely spawn locked, lashers all over the place. And with an infill and a CQC bolter, they could actually still participate in the fight and actually push out a bit. And their concern was that other classes couldn't do this. And to me, it's like, yeah, that's what the infill does for you. That's the main reason I pull out the Infiltrator. You don't need to be in a Zerg. You don't need to be in a big platoon. You can pull that thing out when you are outgunned, overpopped, and you can still go have fun in that fight because you can quietly and silently move around to the flank. You can engage the fight when you want to, and then you can suddenly completely disengage. So I realize there are times where that Stalker Cloak popping out and headshotting you feels super cheesy and makes people rage out. But there are a lot of fights in this game where the heavy assault, the medic, or the engineer just can't really participate because of lopsided population numbers. And then the entire toolkit of the Infiltrator becomes a acceptable force multiplier, in my opinion. So get out there, do some testing, and let your voice be heard. I do really think that survey is the best way to try to get the changes done. I'm going to call it as democratically as possible. Like for so many of the patches, I think it would be awesome if it could be, hey, let's hold a vote. People can rally and campaign for their side, build support for it on Reddit or on the forums, Steam, or EG7s. And I realize there would be gamesmanship and all sorts of issues, but there's going to be challenges no matter what. And if the community consensus is delete cloak, then they should. If it's nerf cloak to a handheld device, then great, do it that way. I do think what we're running into, though, is we're starting to reach some level of loss of identity of Planetside 2. Like, as much as I always agreed that maxes needed adjustments, the calls for completely removing from the game are just going in the wrong direction. Planetside 2 was never a pure infantry game, and it couldn't survive next to all the other titles that are. Shaping them and honing them into something different that still preserves some Planetside 2 character is the right path. And the cloak function of the Infiltrator is so iconic in Planetside 2 that I think you would have the same issue, where the game would start to feel hollowed out if it was removed. Switching it over the tool will sort of reduce the dynamicness of the Infiltrator gameplay, but if it makes it a better fight for everyone on the map, then it's worth it, and they should go for it. Okay, soldiers, that is where I'm going to leave you today. When Phase 2 of the PTS launch comes out, I will give you a full rundown of where it's at then. For now, though, I am Commander Cyrious, and until next time, I will see you Planetside.